The pattern of promise, problem, and provision occurs whenever we receive a promise from God, then while we're moving toward it, a problem or obstacle arises making fulfillment seem unlikely. Then suddenly God provides a way. And here are a few examples of this pattern at work. God tells Abraham, "You will be the father of a great nation." But he has no son, and his wife is growing old. God promises Israel the land of Canaan, but it's full of giants and fortified cities. God has Samuel anoint David as king, but Saul is already occupying the throne. In each of these stories, the person has to decide how they will respond to the problem that is frustrating the fulfillment of the promise. Now, some of them just wilt and give up, like the Israelites when they heard the report from the spies. Others take a shortcut, thinking that they can fulfill the promise by doing an end run around God's plan. Like Abraham when he grew impatient with God and had a child with Hagar. This is what I love about the story of David. If anyone ever had justification for taking a shortcut from the promise to its fulfillment, it was David. God had promised him the throne, yet Saul was unjustly trying to kill him. It says in 1 Samuel 23:14 that Saul sought him every day, but God did not give him into his hand. Then one day, while David and his men were hiding from Saul in a cave at the sheepfolds of En-Gedi, Saul came into that very cave to go to the bathroom. But before taking care of his business, he took off his royal robe and set it aside. Now notice how the writer brings together the sheepfolds and the royal robe in the same story. The sheepfolds remind David where he had come from. The royal robe reminds him of where he is destined to end up. The only question remaining is, how would David get from here to there? David's men hiding in the cave with him want him to take a shortcut. Kill Saul, they say, and walk out of this cave in the royal robe. But David said, "That's where I'm going, but I'm not getting there like this." He understood that where you end up is important, and more important than where you start. But how you get there is the most important thing of all. David cut a corner off of Saul's robe to prove he could have killed him and taken it all. But David would not take a shortcut to the throne itself. He had faith that God, who made the promise, could deal with the problem in a way that would not involve David in wrongdoing. Now, God has made great promises to you, and odds are some problems or obstacles are confronting you today. Don't focus on the size of your problem. Focus on the greatness of your God. And don't wilt like Israel on the cusp of victory. And don't cut corners on the way to the robe and the crown that you've been promised. But rather resolve to wait on the Lord, and you will see his salvation. Now, here are 3 ideas to think about and reflect on as you consider this teaching. Number 1, what spiritual goal are you moving toward? Secondly, what obstacles are in your way? Third, what shortcuts are you tempted to take on the path toward fulfillment?